Now we come to a selection of readings from the Bintel Brief. Now, many of you are familiar with the Bintel Brief, the Forward's iconic advice column that helped make it the largest circulation Jewish newspaper in the world in its time. The legendary editor, Abraham Kahn, who's been referred to before, was a figure looked up to, and people would write in to, "Dear worthy editor." In this column, readers asked all sorts of questions, from how to navigate the difference between the expectations of their parents and the expectations of their friends, to how to deal with their children wanting to date non-Jews. Editor Ab Khan addressed the pressing needs of Jewish immigrants in an eloquent, sometimes gut-wrenching, and often comedic way. I am now pleased, so pleased, to be joined by my good friends Jill Eikenberry and Michael Tucker, the famous real-life husband and wife couple of LA law fame and major participants in the literary endeavors of Symphony Space. And together, we're going to read a few selections from the Bintel Brief. Please welcome Jill Eikenberry and Michael Tucker. Earlier, you heard reference from Jane Eisner about the forthcoming anniversary of the tragic Triangle fire, and here is a letter from someone who was there, 1914.
Worthy editor, I am a girl 22 years of age, but I've already undergone a great deal in my life. When I was born, I already had no father. He died 4 months before my birth, and when I was 3 weeks old, my mother died too. Grandmother, my mother's mother, took me in and soon gave me away to a poor tailor's wife to suckle me. I was brought up by the tailor and his wife and got so used to them that I called them mother and father. When I grew up, I learned from the tailor how to do hand sewing and machine sewing too. When I was 16, my grandmother died and left me her small, dilapidated house. The rabbi of the town sold it for me for 300 rubles and gave me the money. In time, one of the tailor's apprentices fell in love with me, and I didn't reject his love. He was a fine, honest, quiet young man and a good earner. He had a golden character, and we became as one body and soul. When I turned 17, my bridegroom came to me with a plan that we should go to America, and I agreed. It was hard for me to take leave of the tailor's good family, who had kept me as their own child, and oceans of tears were shed when we parted. When we came to America, my bridegroom immediately started to work, and he supported me. He was faithful and devoted. I'll give you an example of his loyalty. Once, during the summer, in the terrible heat, I slept on the roof, but it started to rain in the middle of the night, and I was soaked through to the bone. I got very sick and had to be taken to the hospital. I was so sick that the doctor said I could be saved only by a blood transfusion. My bridegroom said immediately that he was ready to give me his blood, and so thanks to him, I recovered. In time, I went to work at the famous Triangle shop. Later, my bridegroom also got a job there. Even at work, he wanted to be with me. My bridegroom told me then, "We will both work hard for a while, and then we'll get married. We will save every cent so we'll be able to set up a home, and then you'll be a housewife and never go to work in the shop again." Thus, my good bridegroom mused about the golden future. Then there was that terrible fire that took 147 young blossoming lives. When the fire broke out, the screaming, the yelling, the panic all bewildered me. I saw the angel of death before me, and my voice was choked in my throat. Suddenly, someone seized me with extraordinary strength and carried me out of the shop. When I recovered, I heard calming voices and saw my bridegroom near me. I was in the street, rescued. I saw my girlfriends jumping out of the windows and falling to the ground. I clung to my bridegroom and rescuer, but he soon tore himself away from me. "I must save other girls," he said, and disappeared. I never saw him alive again. The next day, I identified him in the morgue by his watch, which had my picture pasted under the cover. I fainted, and they could hardly bring me to. After that, I lay in the hospital for 5 weeks and came home shattered. This is the 4th year that I am alone, and I still see before me the horrible scenes of the fire. I still see the good face of my dear bridegroom Also the black, burned face in the morgue. I'm weak and nervous, yet there is now a young man who wants to marry me. But I made a vow that I would never get married. Besides that, I am afraid that I will never be able to love another man. But this young man doesn't want to leave me, and my friends try to persuade me to marry him and say everything will be all right. I don't believe it, because I think everything can only be all right for me in the grave. I decided to write to you because I want to hear your opinion. Respectfully, a faithful reader.
It is senseless, writes Khan, for this girl to sacrifice her life in memory of her faithful bridegroom, since this would not bring him back to life. What the earth covers must be forgotten. She has suffered enough in her life already, and it is advised to take herself in hand and begin her life anew. Thank you very much, Jill Eikenberry, Michael Tucker.